There is a certain chill that comes with the unknown, a lingering fear that seeps deep into your mind, blurring the line between reality and nightmare. In this video, we will delve into 3 haunting tales that explore strange encounters happening in the most unexpected places. From a cursed old house filled with wandering spirits to a fog-covered highway where a mysterious figure appears and vanishes into thin air. And finally, a group of campers whose fishing trip turns into a battle for survival as they face something far more terrifying than the wilderness. Are these stories merely products of an overactive imagination, or do they reveal the darker side of the world we live in? Stay with us as we uncover these chilling stories where every shadow hides a secret and each step could take you deeper into the unknown. Story 1. The Ghost in the Old Building. Autumn in New England always carried a melancholic beauty, with its fiery red maple leaves, cold winds blowing, and a gray sky looming overhead. But for me, it was also a reminder of loneliness. That year, after my parents died in a car accident, I moved in with my Aunt Sarah, an elderly woman who lived in an old house on the outskirts of town. The house was huge, with thick walls, dark rooms, and strange noises. It felt like a giant beast, swallowing everything around it, including me. Aunt Sarah always reminded me of the presence in the house. She said it was the spirits of my grandparents, who had lived in the house before they passed away. At first, I dismissed it as just spooky stories meant to scare kids. I didn't believe in ghosts. But then strange things began to happen. The first night I slept in the house, I was woken by the sound of steady footsteps on the wooden stairs. The steps were soft, slow, as if someone were shuffling in slippers. I sat up, heart pounding, trying to peer through the darkness. There was no one there. Then other noises followed, the sound of objects being moved, faint whispers in the corners of rooms, the giggling of children. They would appear suddenly and vanish just as quickly, leaving me no time to make sense of them. Aunt Sarah would always laugh it off when I told her about these experiences. She'd say it was the wind, or that it was the creaking of old doors, or simply my overactive imagination. But I knew it wasn't the wind, nor the creaking of doors, and certainly not my imagination. These were eerie, haunting, mysterious sounds. I tried to learn about the house's history, but Aunt Sarah always avoided questions about it. She would just tell me to focus on my studies and not worry about nonsense. However, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease and fear. I often woke up in the middle of the night, hearing heavy breathing right next to my ear, but when I turned around, there was nothing. I'd see shadows flicker in the corners of the room when the lights blinked, but when I turned them on, nothing was there. The strange occurrences escalated. I started seeing faint ghosts appear in mirrors. They had pale faces, dark eyes, and cold smiles. They would always stare at me, sending chills down my spine. I was terrified. I wanted to leave the house, but Aunt Sarah wouldn't let me. She said the family needed me there, that we had to live together. One day I stumbled upon an old diary in the attic. It belonged to my grandmother, with faded, troubled writings inside. In the diary, my grandmother wrote about a missing daughter, about terrifying nightmares involving a ghost that haunted the family. She spoke of a horrifying secret the family had to keep, a secret I could never have imagined. As I read those words, my heart raced and my mind spun. Could the spirits in the house be my grandmother's daughter? I decided to investigate more about the family's secret and the disappearance of the young girl. I searched online, flipped through old documents at the library, but all I found were scattered fragments, pieces that didn't fit together. Aunt Sarah became more and more strange. She would talk to them, laugh to herself, and her eyes were always filled with fear. I began to suspect that she knew more about the house's past, about the secret my grandmother had hidden. She was protecting them, trying to shield them from something evil. One evening, as Aunt Sarah sat reading in the living room, I decided to confront her. I asked her about my grandmother's daughter, about the secret she was hiding. Aunt Sarah looked up, her eyes red, her voice trembling. She told me about a tragedy that had happened many years ago. My grandmother's daughter, Emily, had fallen seriously ill and died in the house. But after Emily's death, my grandmother always felt that Emily was still there, watching over the family. Aunt Sarah told me about my grandmother's dreams, about Emily's ghost constantly haunting the family. My grandmother believed that Emily was possessed by an evil spirit, and she had tried to free her daughter from its grip. My grandmother had performed a ritual, a strange ritual to banish the spirit from Emily's body, but the ritual failed. The evil spirit remained, haunting Emily, driving her to madness and eventually to suicide. Aunt Sarah said that my grandmother had locked herself in Emily's room, praying day and night for her daughter. She believed that Emily's soul still lingered and that she would find a way to set her daughter free. Later, my grandmother also died in that house. Aunt Sarah believed she had died from sorrow and regret. As I listened to Aunt Sarah's story, tears streamed down my face. I understood that Emily's spirit was trapped in the house, searching for a way to free herself, but she didn't know how. I didn't know what to do. I was scared, but I also felt sorry for Emily. I wanted to help her escape her suffering, but I didn't know how. I decided to try to communicate with Emily. I begged her to forgive the family, to find a way to move on. I promised her that I would help her find peace. In the nights that followed, I woke up at midnight and prayed for Emily. I felt a strange presence around me. One night, while I was praying, I felt a cold hand touch my shoulder. I turned around, but no one was there. I continued to pray, but the feeling didn't go away. I decided to try communicating with Emily by writing on the mirror. I wrote, "Emily, please forgive us. Find peace." And then something miraculous happened. The letters I had written on the mirror began to move, rearranging themselves into a question. How? I was shocked and terrified, but I tried to stay calm. I wrote, "I don't know. I want to help you." The letters continued to move, spelling out, "Help me find the truth. Help me find peace." I didn't know what to do. All I knew was that Emily was asking for my help. I decided to trust Emily. I decided to help her find the truth, to help her find peace. I researched more about the ritual my grandmother had performed, about spirits, and how to free them from possession. Finally, I found an ancient book that described a method to free a spirit from haunting. This method required another ritual, a ritual of release. It had to be performed by someone with a pure heart, someone who wasn't afraid and had no ill intentions. I read the book, my heart racing, but I was determined to perform the ritual. I believed I could help Emily find peace. I performed the ritual in Emily's bedroom. I lit candles, recited prayers, and placed a precious stone over Emily's heart. I begged Emily to forgive the family and to seek peace. As I finished the prayers, I felt a warm energy flowing through my body. I saw a white light envelop Emily, and she smiled gently before disappearing into the air. After Emily was gone, the strange noises in the house ceased. Aunt Sarah returned to normal, no longer afraid. She told me she felt light, as if a great burden had been lifted. I felt relieved too. I had helped Emily find peace, freed her from her suffering. I continued living in the house with Aunt Sarah, but it was no longer frightening. It became a peaceful place, filled with memories of the past, of loved ones who had passed away. From then on, I was never afraid of spirits. I believe that every soul has a story, and we must listen, understand, and help them find peace. Story 2. The Ghost on the Highway. Summers in Los Angeles are typically scorching and sun-drenched, but that year, a thick fog shrouded the city like a mysterious veil. I was a freelance photographer driving on the 405 freeway to cover a photo shoot for the local newspaper. The usual towering skyscrapers, the bustling traffic, and the brilliant sunlight had been replaced by an eerie, misty scene. Traffic slowed down, weaving through tight spaces. The overwhelming smell of gasoline mixed with the dampness of the fog, making me feel suffocated. Suddenly, the car in front of me braked hard, jolting me awake. I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw a red pickup truck with California plates speeding towards me, as if trying to overtake. "How reckless," I muttered. The pickup raced toward me, but then vanished into the thick fog without a trace. I checked the clock. 3 a.m. It was still dark. I tried to make out the truck, but it had disappeared as if it had never existed. I kept driving, but a strange feeling lingered. I couldn't explain the sudden disappearance of the truck. Maybe it was the dense fog messing with my vision, I thought. However, as I approached a large bridge spanning the Los Angeles River, another strange occurrence took place. To my right, on the opposite side of the road, I saw a figure jogging against the flow of traffic. The person wore all black, a cap pulled low, hiding their face. Probably someone lost, I reasoned and continued driving. But when I looked in the rearview mirror, the figure was still running, now at an alarming speed. They moved against traffic, seemingly unfazed by the cars rushing past. I tried to get a clearer view, but the figure grew fainter and eventually disappeared into the fog. As dawn approached, the fog thickened, further limiting my visibility. I slowed down, the feeling of unease growing stronger. I checked my phone, thinking about calling a friend, but the signal was weak. No reception. At that moment, a green truck pulled up next to me with California plates. Behind the wheel was an older man, his face rugged and covered in stubble, staring directly at me. Am I hallucinating? I wondered. But when I glanced in the rearview mirror again, the truck had disappeared. I couldn't believe what was happening. Fear gripped me, and I desperately searched for a safe place to pull over. I found a small, deserted gas station and decided to stop. Stepping out of the car, I breathed in the fresh air, trying to calm my nerves. It's just a dream, I told myself. It has to be. But as I turned back to look at my car, my heart skipped a beat. Standing on the roof of my car was a shadowy figure dressed in black, wearing a cap. I screamed and scrambled back into the car, locking the doors. I started the engine and sped away, not daring to look back. I drove to a nearby cafe, ordered a hot coffee, and tried to steady my nerves. Staring at my reflection in the mirror, I saw a pale face with bloodshot eyes, the fear still clinging to me. I tried to make sense of the strange occurrences I'd encountered, but no one believed me. They said I was hallucinating or losing my mind. Still, I couldn't forget what I had seen. The footsteps of that figure on the highway echoed in my mind, along with the visions of the pickup truck and the disappearing truck in the fog. These strange events followed me for years. I was always on edge, constantly checking my rearview mirror, haunted by what I had witnessed. I knew there was some mysterious force haunting me, but I didn't know what it was or why it was after me. One day, while visiting a friend in a nearby town, I saw the red pickup truck again on the highway. It sped down the road, then suddenly turned onto a small side road, vanishing into a swirl of rusted iron gates. I knew then that it wasn't a hallucination. I couldn't explain what I had seen, but I was certain there was some terrifying secret hidden within the thick fog on the 405 freeway. Determined to uncover the truth, I followed the small road the truck had turned onto. The road was narrow, dusty, and had no streetlights. I drove slowly, trying to see through the towering palm trees lining both sides of the road. I noticed a faint inscription on the rusted iron gate. Family Cemetery. My heart pounded in my chest. I didn't know why I had come to this place, but I felt it was connected to the strange events I had witnessed on the highway. I turned onto the road leading to the cemetery, my pulse quickening. The gray tombstones stood close together, each one a reminder of a life that had passed. I wandered through the cemetery, gazing at the tombstones, hoping to find a clue, something that could explain the bizarre occurrences. Finally, I came across a gravestone eerily similar to the red pickup truck I had seen. The name on the stone was John Smith, with the birth and death dates reading 1950 to 2000. I felt a shiver run down my spine, a strange sensation overcoming me. Could John Smith have vanished on the 405 freeway, and was his spirit now haunting me? I wasn't sure, but I felt I had uncovered some secret. I decided to learn more about John Smith, about his life and death. Leaving the cemetery, I returned to the city. I searched for information about John Smith online, but found nothing. I reached out to his old friends, but they all claimed to know nothing about him. I felt uneasy, knowing I couldn't let this secret go. I resolved to continue searching for the truth, no matter how dangerous it might be. I returned to the 405 freeway, this time driving more cautiously, scanning for any details I might have missed. I saw the trees along the road, the tall buildings, the busy traffic, but no sign of John Smith. Frustrated, I started questioning whether I was losing my sanity. However, as I crossed a bridge over the Los Angeles River, something caught my eye, a crumpled paper coffee cup lying on the black asphalt. I looked closer and saw a name printed in small letters on the cup, John Smith. I picked up the cup, holding it tightly, my heart racing. I knew I had stumbled upon a clue. I returned to the cemetery, no longer afraid. I found John Smith's gravestone and placed the coffee cup in front of it. I closed my eyes and a warm energy surged through me. I heard a soft whisper in my ear, "Thank you." Opening my eyes, I saw a faint figure standing before John Smith's gravestone. He was dressed in black, wearing a cap, and smiling gently. I knew then that it was John Smith's spirit. He wanted to thank me for helping him find peace. I felt a deep sense of relief, knowing I had fulfilled my purpose. I left the cemetery, drove back to the city, and I wasn't afraid anymore. However, I know that hidden secrets always linger in the thick fog on the 405 freeway, and I will always stay alert to what I see. Story 3. The Soul Mirror. In 2016, I moved to New York City to pursue my dream of becoming a fashion designer. Life in the big city was vibrant and bustling, with strangers everywhere, towering skyscrapers, and never-ending noise. Yet, amidst all the excitement, I found a small apartment, hidden within an old, mysterious building, giving off an eerie and enigmatic vibe. My apartment was on the 5th floor, and the only decoration in the bedroom was a vintage mirror with a dark wooden frame. The mirror had an inexplicable allure, with intricate carvings, and it always felt as if it was watching me, sending shivers down my spine. At first, I paid no attention to the mirror, but soon strange things began to happen. One night, as I was deep in sleep, I felt as though someone was staring at me. Startled, I woke up and noticed the mirror emitting an eerie, faint glow as if a spirit was present inside it. Panicking, I turned off the light, but the glow from the mirror didn't disappear. I tried to look into it, but I couldn't see anything. On another occasion, I saw my reflection in the mirror distorted. My face was twisted, my eyes were bloodshot, and a sinister grin crept across my lips. Terrified, I ran out of the room, but when I returned, the image in the mirror had returned to normal. I began feeling uneasy and avoided looking into the mirror. I even considered getting rid of it, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the mirror held some dark secret. Determined to uncover the truth, I decided to research the history of the apartment. I spoke to the landlord, an old man with a weary face and deep-set eyes. He told me about strange occurrences in the apartment. Years ago, a young couple had lived there happily, but one day the wife mysteriously disappeared. Afterward, the husband went mad, spending hours staring into the mirror, and eventually took his own life in the apartment. The landlord had tried to sell the apartment, but no one dared to buy it. He confessed that he was always frightened when he stepped inside, feeling that a spirit haunted the place. Listening to his story sent chills down my spine. I realized the mirror was the source of my unease, trapping the young couple in a horrifying obsession. I decided to dig deeper into the mirror's history. I searched the internet but found nothing. I even visited libraries to look up old books about spirits and rituals to release souls. But nothing proved useful. Despite feeling powerless, I couldn't give up. I started observing the vintage mirror daily, staring into it, hoping to notice the slightest change. I even tried talking to it as if it were a friend, attempting to connect with the spirit haunting it. One day, while I was looking into the mirror, a faint figure, a ghostly woman, appeared. It was hard to see clearly, but I noticed she was a young woman with pale skin, deep black eyes, and a chilling smile. I was terrified, but I tried to stay calm. I asked the figure, "Who are you? Why are you haunting this place?" The figure didn't respond but began to move, staring intently at me, with her smile growing wider and more menacing. I panicked and ran out of the room, but I felt the figure was still watching me. I hid in the living room, but I couldn't escape the mirror's haunting presence. I felt as though it was following me, that it wouldn't stop until it claimed my soul. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to release the young woman's spirit. I only knew I had to act before it took my soul. I resolved to face the mirror again. I knew it was a risk, but I had to do something. I approached the mirror, looked into it, and said, "I know who you are. I know what you want. Tell me the truth." The young woman's image appeared again, but this time it was clearer, no longer a faint apparition. She stared at me with a haunting grin. She said, "You cannot understand my suffering." I replied, "I don't know the truth, but I want to help you." She said, "He killed me. He trapped me in this mirror. He wouldn't let me leave." I gazed into the mirror and saw the hatred in her eyes. I understood that her husband had killed her and imprisoned her soul in the mirror. I said, "I will help you. I will free your soul." She stared at me and her smile began to fade. She asked, "How can you do that?" I replied, "I don't know, but I'll try." Looking into the mirror, I saw hope in her eyes. I knew I had to do something to help her. I searched online for rituals to free trapped souls. I found a ritual described in an ancient book, which required an item related to the spirit to release it. I remembered the landlord's story about the husband always carrying a diamond ring when he lived in the apartment. I searched the apartment but couldn't find anything. I felt helpless, but I refused to give up. I continued searching every corner of the apartment. Finally, I decided to inspect the vintage mirror more closely. As I examined it, I noticed a tiny gleam at the bottom corner. I touched it and felt something metallic. Pulling it out, I found a small, tarnished diamond ring. I knew this was the husband's ring. I held it in my hand and a warm energy surged through me. Returning to the bedroom, I approached the mirror and said, "I found it. I'll set you free." I placed the ring against the mirror and a white light enveloped it. The image of the young woman dissolved into the light and the mirror returned to its normal state. I felt a sense of relief. I had freed her soul, helping her find peace. I discarded the ring and never looked into the vintage mirror again. I knew it still existed, but it no longer haunted me. I continue to live in the apartment, but it's no longer frightening. It has become a peaceful place where I can pursue my dreams. I know there are always spirits haunting this city, but I am no longer afraid. I know I can help them, and I will always be ready to assist those who need it. Thank you for watching today's story. I hope these chilling experiences have made you reflect on fears and trust in life. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss out on more engaging stories and interesting content in the future. Thank you for your support, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.